This is Take a Cue, episode 20.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Welcome to Take a Cue. I'm Jen Wise, 4th and 5th grade instrumental music teacher.
And I'm Erik Donough, 8th grade band and jazz band director.
We are two veteran educators with over 35 years of experience teaching music in New Jersey public schools between the two of us, and we are excited to bring teaching experience and insights to you.
Whether you're just starting out in your teaching career or you've been teaching longer than we have, this show will help you grow with new ideas and perspectives about music education and teaching.
We hope that you'll be just as inspired as we are every time you listen. Before we begin, if you enjoy our podcast, please help us out by doing a few super easy things.
First, subscribe on your favorite podcast app.
Then make sure you rate the podcast and leave a review.
It helps people find our show who haven't yet, and we'd really appreciate it.
If you find that you get a lot out of our episodes, we'd be grateful if you considered becoming a monthly supporter to help us grow the podcast.
You can sign up to make a secure monthly payment using the link in our show notes or on our Anchor site, anchor.fm/takeacue. That's all one word.
Also, if you have questions or comments about anything you hear on the episode, come and interact with us on social media. We are Take a Cue Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are.
Hey, Jen, it's getting toward that time of the year. We're in the fourth marking period. It's kind of crazy for those of us with 4 marking periods.
Yeah.
We're in the 4th marking period. We've got concerts coming up. We're starting to think about June.
Festival season.
I don't know how this happened.
Oh, yeah. I know. I can't believe it. The year went so fast. The school year's winding down. It's really crazy, you know.
I don't feel like it's winding down yet, but I can definitely see it coming.
Yeah, I see the light. I see the end. I know. I hear you. But it's coming like a freight train.
Yeah,
for me
yes,
anyway. So
how's everything going with your concert prep and all that?
It's good. We're rolling. We had a little bump in April. I came back from spring break with some issues with my eye. Had to go out for surgery. So I'll see the band soon.
Oh man.
It's gonna be it's gonna be a real sprint to the finish, I think, for me this year. But we're gonna have a great concert season. How about you guys?
Everything's going well. The group is kind of going, at a good pace. We're working on our festival music for the beginning of June with, that's in Allentown, Pennsylvania. And we're working on our concert music, which is May 18th. So less than a month away. Yep. I told that to the kids the other day. They looked completely shocked that it was less than a month away, especially our jazz band kids who have, I think, 4 rehearsals left. Yeah. So that's a little tricky, but yeah, it's going well. We have Brendan, student teacher, is still hanging with us, and he's there every day and learning a lot. He got up in front of Brendan's group the other day because Brendan was out. Okay. And so I was in there as like the teacher who had to be in the room.
Right, the certified person. Yeah. Yeah,
he really ran the entire rehearsal program for that period and did a great job. So it's nice seeing him grow. Good. Nice seeing, my students are hopefully still in it. I know some of them have already checked out, like starting to check out mentally, like they're already on summer mode. Yeah. So trying to keep them interested and engaged, but yeah, it's going very well.
Yeah, we got good news and bad news this week. The good news is we didn't use all our snow days, right? So we got the Friday back before Memorial Day. So we'll have a nice 4-day weekend. The bad news, that's the last rehearsal before my concert. No. And it stinks to have your concert the day after you get back from a long weekend as it is. But
oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Jen, that's wild.
I know. So when you were like, oh yeah, our concert's May 18th and we have 4 rehearsals left. Mine's May 31st and I have 4 rehearsals left. Oh man. So all of a sudden. So I'm not panicking. I'll sleep, I swear. But it's like I said, it'll be a sprint to the finish with a lovely 4-day Memorial Day weekend in between.
Yes. I'm so looking forward to it. I don't even care if it's the week before our festival.
That's right.
I'm with you there on losing a rehearsal.
Yeah, I hear you. But
yeah, we're going to make it through. The kids are going to be awesome because they always are.
Oh yeah, totally.
Oh,
Mm-hmm. And for the in the meantime, I really love this topic you came up with for this month. We're asking the people of the fine people of the band directors group. We're asking each other, what is your why? And Eric asked, what is your real why? Not just the picture perfect interview why that we discussed last month with John Leister. If you haven't checked it out, we talked all about interviewing and getting that first job and putting yourself out there, getting into your first teaching position. But now it's like, why? Why are you
after
there?
15, 20 plus years, what is your why? Has it changed? I think we had a really great conversation on this episode, Jen, you and I, about how our whys have changed over time.
Yeah.
And some of the things that haven't changed.
Right.
We also got to dive into some of the comments from our colleagues out there in the US and talking about their whys. I think it was great. I really enjoyed sort of doing this toward the end of the year, where things start to get a little, we're just kind of scrambling to make the concerts happen. And we're stuck kind of going at 100% all the time. It's nice to kind of take a moment and remember the why.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, hopefully you'll all relate to something that comes up today and be like, oh yeah, that's totally me. Or I do like that part of what I do. And, but if you hear something and you want to chime in on social media and let us know where you're at, we love to hear from you all the time. So, yeah.
We hope this is inspirational to you as you kind of barrel toward the end of the year.
Yes.
As much as it was to us to kind of unpack that.
Yeah. So, all right, let's get to it. Let's talk about our why.
Jen, I love at the end of the year kind of reminding ourselves, because we're in the thick of the year, of the end of the year. We've got concerts coming up. We've got festivals coming up and all this good stuff. And I think it's really great to take a few moments. How did you start out when you went off to college and you were like, I want to be a band director? What was your why then? I'm curious, like, where you started out. Because I know for me, I have a very different why now than I did then.
My why has evolved for sure, definitely. And at that point, I was one of those people that like got the call to teach. Like I woke up and said, okay, I'm going to be a teacher. And like all along the way, people had been like hinting at it, because we were doing the whole PBL, probably based learning thing in my high school. And I had a couple of teachers say, wow, the way you work with your peers, that you could maybe, be a good teacher, an educator, or someone, like some kind of people leader type, and oh, that's nice. And then you move on and you do the next project. And then I always did like summer camps in high school, and I liked certain age groups, and I liked working with kids, and I was like, oh, that's kind of nice. And then I taught private flute lessons at my friend's summer camp, and I taught on the side some lessons in high school. It's like, oh, I kind of like teaching music. I kind of like that moment where the kid like gets it, and we all know like the aha moment, and that but experiencing that in high school, that was kind of my why for. And then the light bulb moment, right? The light bulb moment where I literally woke up one day and was like, oh yeah, I have to apply to schools to go be a teacher.
Were there other things on your mind up to that point where you're like, maybe this is what I want to go into?
Yeah, two things. I was going to be Katie Couric. Like I was going to be a journalist. I was going to, interview interesting people and help change people's ideas about the world. And I was going to do that, and I was going to do it on TV. So
now you're just doing it on a podcast.
That's right. I still get to talk to everybody and share ideas with great people. And we do it here. This is cool. And the other thing I thought I might do was like be a science writer, like write up people's research and do just like that kind of thing. I loved like when I took lessons at Juilliard and everything, I'd get in there early and I'd go to the Barnes and Noble, like right across from Lincoln Center. And I'd sit there in like the science periodicals and just like read things that came out. And I loved like my lesson was on, I think it's Tuesdays when the Science Times comes out. And my lesson was on Tuesday. So I'd get the Science Times like right there and sit there and read it. Like I so there I am studying at Juilliard weekly, thinking about being a science writer. It was like the little disconnect. But anyway, so then I had that aha moment and I excitedly that morning went to my high school choir director, John Barnow. And I said, Mr. Barnow, I'm going to be a music teacher. He said, why would you do that? And he has that kind of sense of humor. And the rest is history. But I did apply for schools as like an elementary ed person. And I applied for music and I got in for both. And it wasn't really until like, I got accepted to a program where I thought I'd do well that it was like, okay, definitely music. But I got that call to teach first. So,
but it sounds like you've always had the desire to make a difference in one way or another.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, definitely want to help kids find something out about themselves. That was a big motivator for me, whether I could articulate that at 16 or 17 or not. But helping the people around me, kind of discover themselves is a big one. How about you? What was your perspective back then?
I loved band. And I had been working like you at a summer camp since I was 14. Mm-hmm. And I think through that summer camp counselor experience, I realized that it was maybe a strength working with younger children and getting them excited about something, about music or about performing. I also did drama when I was at that camp. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I loved music, like performing myself. And I think I was good at working with children. So I think it was kind of just one step led to another. And it was just kind of, made sense as to where to go. I also thought that I might go into public relations in some way, or perhaps computer programming. I've always liked, working with technology and computers. So who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, it was, I really enjoyed being in front of a group of kids and getting them excited about something that I was excited about myself, and seeing them get really interested and excited too. I think I was probably a pretty good salesman. Yeah. So when I decided, what am I going to go to school for? I honestly thought that I was going to go to college for music performance, and, education was a good backup. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I know there are a lot of people out there.
There are a lot of people out there that
think that as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I was just, I was thinking that as you were talking, I was like, oh, it's funny because for us, musician types, hardworking types, artists, whatever, it's just what you do and who you are to practice 1 million hours a day and perfect that audition piece and do that. So, to get into this, you may not know at the time how invested you really are, in your own musicianship and all that. And,
it's a really good point. You just don't really think twice about it. It's just the way things are.
Right. And
you just do it.
Yeah. It's kind of the path, the path you take. And, when you get that full ride scholarship in your mail to go be an elementary teacher, and then you're like, I think I'm gonna just go play my instrument instead. Thank you. And then you're like, what was I thinking? It's just one of those things. Because it's part of it is it's who you are, right? Yeah. Is to be that musician, to be that person. So that's how I got there. And I think for some of our listeners that chimed in on social media, they said some of the things that we've already said, I was good at it and I liked that,
Yeah. Yeah.
and same like that was pretty motivating for me at that time for sure. You
Yeah.
know?
For our listeners, we're going to kind of get to some of our colleagues' thoughts on this matter in a little bit as well.
Yeah.
We posed the question to our Facebook band director group, and we're going to kind of, share out some of their thoughts too. So Jen, I'm kind of curious, like once you got to college, did you find that anything changed as far as your why? Like, why did you want to be a music teacher?
Yeah, I think your professors really do influence your why while you're in that, that place in your life. I know for a fact I would not have made it if it weren't for the cohort I was with. There's no chance. There is zero chance I would have made it through 5 years of music school if it wasn't for the people I was with. And for me, so I did marching band, right? I got pulled in right away to that community on campus. And I did marching band through high school and everything. And I did drum corps. And that tells you a lot, it does kind of tell you a lot about me, is that besides wanting to be a good musician and liking working with kids, I was kind of there for the hang too. I really have to say when you came up with this idea and put this out there, for me, that was the number one thing I had to admit to myself before we had this conversation is I'm going to have to tell everybody that my true why is that I'm in it for the hang. Is that I was there and I fell in with some really great musicians and really motivated people, and I'm not sure if that hadn't happened that I would have survived music school, because it's a lot and you have to just immerse yourself, right? So I think that really helped propel me through that part of my journey.
100%. Jen, do you follow or at least are you aware of Adam Neely?
Is that the Adams Ruins Everything guy?
Oh, no, that's
Okay.
Adam Conover.
Oh, okay,
no,
sorry.
Adam Neely is a bassist in Manhattan, and he's a YouTuber.
Okay.
And he had he has a whole bunch of great videos. If our listeners haven't heard of Adam Neely, go look him up on YouTube.
Okay.
But he has a great video where he talks about his experiences being a jazz ambassador for the United States. He was actually sent by the United States State Department to Mongolia as an ambassador for the United States. And he sort of chronicled his experience in a video on YouTube. And one of his main points that he makes is that people really talk about the self-expression and the glorification of self when it comes to music.
Yeah.
And his experience really reminded him of the community building aspect of music. And so I think you're totally dead on that. And I completely agree that it was all about the interpersonal connections made while performing and while being in class. And wanting to bring that to my students when I got out of college. So I think that, that kind of changed for me in college. It sounds very similar to your experience.
Yeah.
That it was all about the hang. It was about making those interpersonal connections with people through music.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And, I got my first experience with that after junior year of high school. I went to a sleepaway summer music camp 1 week, got thrown right into a woodwind quintet and a flute ensemble. And then after hours, we created a little Jethro Tull cover group, and I got to play, the flute part. And
I love that.
And it was so cool. And I was like, oh my gosh, if music school is half of this, I'm in, and that was one of the, again, I learned so much that week, and those relationships I built then, I still keep in touch with some of those people that were in those ensembles that summer.
Sure.
It's amazing. And if it weren't for some of our friends coming up with inappropriate lyrics to Berlioz and, dancing around the dorms, to Beethoven's Sixth Symphony. And I don't know like how I would have done it. Like I love that music, but I love it even more picturing, my friends just like, slogging through music history together,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think back in college, and tell me if you experienced this as well when you were back in school. I really felt like, and I think that Tom, Jen's husband, for our listeners who might not have heard the episode, kind of touched on this in his episode as well, in that he wanted to create like a legacy and create, build this program and make a name for himself.
Yeah.
And I feel like when I was in college, there was also that desire to be in a program and kind of make a name for myself. And, I would go to the conferences and hear about these great educators who would go and tour the country and work with all these bands. And, everybody knew their name. And I was like, I want to do that.
Yeah.
Was there also at that part for you as well, Jen?
I mean, a little bit. Yeah, I guess so. I was fortunate to work with some of those people, like work with their color guards and, work with some of those people pretty closely right in the beginning of college. And I was like, wow, these people are still learning. Like I got to see that right away. I think that was really helpful for me. But yeah, I left school like on fire. I'm going to come back to New Jersey and I'm just going to light the place up and I'm going to have the biggest and best beginning band in North Jersey. And, it just like, yeah, you get that, like you want to build this like model program, and where you land, some people do that and others have a whole lot to talk about on a podcast, Jen, because we've been through it all.
You have a whole lot to talk about, and you have one of the premier elementary bands in the state. So there you go.
It did start there, So, and I definitely, like I said, I couldn't have done it without like making all that music with the great people around me and having them like, they pick you up when you fail your first promotional jury. I'm sure we'll come back around to that someday, but
absolutely.
Yeah. So,
I feel like somebody was talking about, and I wish I remember who I was talking to about this. Or maybe I read it online and they said, when you're in high school and you decide you want to be a music teacher, it's not enough to just love band or love music.
Yeah.
You got to be a hard worker. You got to love working hard.
Yeah.
And I think that was a really interesting and thought-provoking comment. I wish I knew who said that.
Yeah.
But I feel like for me, I didn't quite understand that in high school, and maybe at least a bit in undergrad as well. I loved music and I loved band, and that's what I wanted to do. And that's why I wanted to be a band director.
Yeah.
But the hard work kind of came later.
Okay.
It sounds to me like you kind of got into that. You knew it in an earlier age.
I kind of did.
Yeah.
I and they're all listeners. So I'll say it out loud. I was surrounded by some really, really hardworking educators who weren't afraid to tell me how hard they were working. And you could see all over their face and their families and, how they went about their day, like how invested they were in the program in front of them. And,
sure.
I kind of knew what I was getting myself into, but, like I said, all along the way I had, they were all good people that I was surrounded with. So it was like, oh, sure, I'll join this club. Like, did you have that kind of support through college and everything? Did you get that from your professors and everything, or?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
The professors at Ithaca at the time were phenomenal. I mean, this was 20 years ago. I don't really. Hello, thunderstorm.
Oh, was it? Okay. Friends, there's a tornado warning here tonight. So things might get a little dicey. So, yeah.
So at any rate, yes, absolutely. And I was saying, I haven't been back to Ithaca. I don't really know a lot of the professors that are there now. A lot of my professors have retired or moved on to other places. But at the time, at least I felt so supported, and it was really kind of eye-opening, the amount of time and effort that was required. I didn't really understand that going into school. So it was a little bit of a rude awakening that this was what was expected.
Sure.
At least at a school, with a conservatory atmosphere. I found myself appreciating the time and the effort that my teachers had put into helping me find something that I love doing. I think that I was really inspired by my private teachers, as well as my band directors. I had a great private teacher who unfortunately passed away a couple of years ago, Pete Petoskey, here in Northern New Jersey, who was a school teacher, but then also retired and then just did lessons. And he taught my sister flute and he taught me saxophone. And I saw the work and the time and the effort he put into his students. And that was really inspiring to me, as well as my band directors. As a matter of fact, one of our colleagues is currently at the high school, but he was my 4th grade band director. So I still remember the time. It's these moments that stick with you as a kid that really are formative. Our colleague Amadeo was my 4th grade band director, and I remember playing Love Potion Number 9 as a solo with him on piano and me on saxophone at the 4th grade band concert.
Wow.
And like things like that matter.
Yeah.
They really are. They are indelible into our students' memories. And that's something that I want to provide for my students too. So as you were going through college, Jen,
yes,
now you've kind of like, you've been in this atmosphere of, the ivory tower. Everybody is gung ho about music and music ed. And yes, let's go change the world through music. Do you find that once you got out and started teaching that your why has changed since then?
Sorry,
that was a loaded question, a tough question. I know.
So when I first got out and I was still like teaching marching band for pennies, 2-3 bands at a time, I still in it for the hang. I didn't have kids at home or a dog even. And, I could still hang on a Friday night and do the football game and go out after. And that kept me, pushing me through the week. And we could do what you and I do on here. And we could talk about my, beginning clarinet squeaking to heck. And, we could like, I still was lucky enough to have that great support system. And coming back here to New Jersey, and having my own experiences from UConn and coming back here and just getting immersing myself in the culture back here was pretty motivating for me.
And we're really lucky that we are in an area that's so densely populated that we are so close to so many of our colleagues geographically.
Well, Tom and I counted here in Boonton, there are no less than a dozen band directors.
Sure.
Like not just like music teachers. There are a dozen band directors that live in my town.
Yeah.
It's wild. Morris County's crazy.
Yeah.
So,
it's the same. I live in Morris County too, but a little more south. I live in Morristown, and there's definitely 5 or 6 band directors that live in town. But I was going to say, even within a half an hour, there's probably 100 band directors that I could call up and say, hey, you want to go for dinner and hang? Like it's just, we're so lucky that we have that support system.
Yeah, we really are.
Yeah. And I think that's definitely important and definitely part of my why.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, we love teaching children and we love, imparting.
We'll circle back to them. So
our love of music. But no, that's a really important part. Like, I think that is one of our, at least for me, and I'm guessing for you too, Jen, that's part of our why is that we have that support system that we're able to still keep in touch with people.
It's a big one. And like for me, a motivator for starting a master's program, I had taught, I guess, 4 years. And in Connecticut, just keep your certification. You have to get a certain number of credits towards your master's in your first 5 years of out in the field. And I was like, well, if I'm going to hang on to my Connecticut certificate, I'll take a few credits. And then it was like, well, how am I going to do that? Oh, okay. Let me just go to the closest university where I can meet the most people like close to me. And like that was a motivator even for me to, get into the master's program I was,
Sure.
going to do. And because you can do it any number of ways here in New Jersey. You can do it online, you can go in person, you could do it over the summer, you can do classes here and there. But I did like a summer intensive program and just like spent 8, 10 weeks, 12 weeks a year, with people, in the field, like locally. I thought that was a motivating thing after the first few years.
Oh, absolutely. To have that kind of support system. I mean, we feed off of each other. When I know that my colleagues, even in a different district, are excited about something, that feeds my excitement and my enthusiasm. And I think there's something to be said for that. I think we're really fortunate to be where we are.
Yeah. And, coming back to something else, you said earlier, like getting to, hear the ideas from other people, and then like, hearing my students progress, like, it's like, okay, we're doing a cool thing here. We're building a community for music here. And like, that was another big why for me, because, when I came in, it was by no means a poor program that I walked into, but it was one where membership had, dwindled a little bit. And, they weren't taking like that big spring middle school trip. And, there were just like a couple pieces that I was like, oh, that we could really have something cool here. And, after a few years building that up and making that like a really whole, what I felt like was a whole program at the middle school, like that was a big motivator after my first couple of years. That was a big why for me. Like, wow, this whole community is getting something out of like my program.
It gives you a sense of purpose.
Yeah,
that
totally.
what you're doing matters.
Yeah, and that was pretty cool. So, when you got to your first job, was your why more about the kids, more about, or more like still with the same community vibe and musicianship vibe? Like, how about you?
Well, when I got my first job, it was at a program that had there had been some turnover in over a few years, and it was a small district here in northern New Jersey, and they were really looking for somebody who would be there to sort of like, add some stability to the program. And it was a program that I think had a lot of potential. And so I was very excited when I got hired there about creating something for the kids that were there and creating something for the town, looking toward the future. And, it makes, like we were talking about, it gives you a sense of that purpose, like what you're doing is going to go on, even if you're not there.
Right.
And I think that was something that was important to me at the time, and I think it still is. I was only there for 3 years. I decided to move on. You can check out episode 2 if you want to hear more about that. But yeah, it was a great program, and I really thought that along those lines of creating a dynasty. Now the program is never going to be huge because it was just a small town. But I really felt like it was some place where I could give my time and it would be appreciated, and we could build something together. And I think we did. At the time. I will say that as I've gotten older, I've now been teaching. I started there 21 years ago. And so, maybe it's a little less up here, and now my why is maybe a little more grounded, more in the look, music was I would love to say that I became a teacher because I loved igniting that spark in my students, and I loved being around children and, inspiring children. And I do, but I don't think that that's really my why. I feel like for me, music was a place where I felt like I belonged, and to create that place for students who maybe need that, I think was really, it still continues to be my motivating factor even now, 21 years later. That there is, there's a big sports culture in most schools in our area. And there's a big, that's where a lot of kids shine, and there's a lot of time and effort and money put into sports and things like that. But that was never for me. And so showing kids like, hey, here's another opportunity for you that may be a little different, but it's still valuable and important, and you matter, I think is really important.
Yeah.
And that's sort of become a driving factor for me more now than maybe it was early on. What about you?
You know how people always say, like, if you're going to be a teacher, you have to like kids. Like, do you? No, just kidding. I do. You
should be able to deal with them. That's probably important.
So listen, I think when I went into this, I had this mindset that we're not asking enough of kids. That they want to achieve more than what we're asking of them. And I really had that in my mind, that like kids want to achieve, like, and be great. Like kids want to be great.
Sure.
And that was really in my heart when I started teaching. And it definitely is now. Because do I enjoy the company of 10-year-olds? I don't know. But I enjoy it when I feel like they're empowered, like to achieve, like they're I feel like when they find that little like spark, like that intrinsic motivation of like, I did well and that was great and I can do more great things, like that is definitely still my why. I think we ask a lot of kids now. When I started 15 years ago, I think the program I walked into maybe didn't ask a lot of the kids that were there. And I think once they started like being surrounded by excellence, that's when that program really, became what it is, and now that I'm teaching in a district where like excellence just is kind of expected, it's a different feeling. It's like, okay, now what's my place? Like, am I providing them another experience to access that, like, that excellent part of them? Am I giving them, a new way to look at, artistry? Like, it's been a little different. It's been an adjustment for me with my why, because before it was like, I think the kids in front of me need this opportunity, and they need to be surrounded by excellence. But when they're already surrounded by so many excellent educators and so many excellent opportunities and so many things like that, it's like, okay, so why is what we do special? And and it's like, you can't just say to a 10-year-old, well, because it is, and you just don't know yet. But because you have to like lead them there.
A lot of them, they're going to be successful with or without music. It's really just one of those things. So we have to figure out how our program fits into that. The nice thing is that even teaching where we do, that there's such support for what music brings people.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether those students are already on a great path for their own lives.
Yeah.
There is such great support and such great community value in the arts.
Yeah. So, and I guess lately my why has been more to support the hang to support my colleagues, and to do have our conversations out in the open like this,
Sure.
so that maybe it'll spark something from one of our colleagues and the other music teachers out there with us. I'm really thankful to be in a department with and we've said this so many times, with such great other educators, that my why is supporting the new people in the department. I get to do that now, and that's really motivating for me day to day. And my why is trying to come up with the next like excellent thing to keep this place excellent.
Absolutely.
And those things are really motivating for me. And our PDP, personal development plan that we have to do every year.
Mm-hmm.
Like I looked at it this year and I'm like, wow, a lot of this isn't about me. A lot of this is about what I can do for the people around me. And I guess with my first year with tenure in the district, like, yeah, that's a good thing to have
Yes.
in my personal development plan. Like, how can I make a bigger difference in, our school community? And I felt like that was a little moment I had for myself at the beginning of the year. Like, okay, I get to look at this year a little differently, and I'm happy about that.
So, Jen, you want to jump into some of these thoughts that our colleagues have left with us?
I think we should. Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay.
So a couple weeks ago, actually back in March, I had posted a note in our in the Facebook group, the private group, that if you're not a band director, I'm sorry, you don't get to see the group. But I posted a question on this topic, and I said on an upcoming episode of our podcast, we'll be having a pretty frank discussion on why we teach music, and we'd love to feature your why. And we asked our colleagues to be 100% honest and not just the interview perfect answers, but the real reasons as to why they do it now, or or originally got into it. And we're not going to say names or anything like that because, this is personal, but they did, agree to have their answers featured on the podcast. So you want to do the first one here, Jen?
Someone said, I do this in a small rural school because they deserve quality music education too. And I was blessed enough to have a teacher that let me start working with younger kids as a TA in high school, and seeing those kids succeed was an incredible feeling. That's pretty cool.
I love that.
Yeah.
Getting that spark ignited early. And that's something to think about for our own students is, are we allowing them to have the experiences that might spark in them an interest to go into music ed?
Yeah. That's cool.
Another one that somebody left here was pretty short and succinct. And they said, because some kids need band more than the band needs them. And
I want a t-shirt for that. I want a keychain or something I could put on my lanyard that I could just look at every once in a while and be like, okay, some kids need me more than I guess you need the band. Yeah, I should have that on the back of my school ID just so I can look at it every once in a while.
Sometimes I'll talk with Mike, our high school director, and Jim, our marching band director at the high school, and I'll say like, okay, we'll talk about the kids that signed up next year. And we'll say, okay, well, hey, this is a great trumpet player. He's going to make the trumpet section sound amazing. And, and this girl is an amazing tuba player. She's going to just fill out the section. And there are other kids where we're like, you know what? I'm really glad they signed up for band because I think this is going to be really good for them.
Another comment from one of our posters, my why is due to the people you work with. We've had that part of the conversation tonight. They were the only ones who saw my potential in a sea of teachers who only focused on the top 10%. Growing up in, where, it was easy to fall between the cracks since I wasn't an AP honors student. Band was a place where I really felt I belonged somewhere, and my teachers saw that and did what they could to help me, help water that in me. I literally graduated high school with a 2.8 GPA, but got accepted into music school because of band. Somewhere, somebody wanted me to be part of their program because of my musical ability, and here I am. Nearly 19 years since high school graduation, I'll be graduating with my master's plus 15 in social justice education. That's so cool.
I love that. Yeah. I love that. And I totally feel, at one with this teacher because I too graduated from a very, a very type A, very high performing district in Livingston, the one where we teach now. Yeah. But music was really a place where I felt like I belonged to. So I totally get it. And
Yeah.
So there's another one here. It said, I've always loved band and couldn't imagine doing anything else. But COVID and its forced separations really brought home, for me, my big reason. Simply put, we get people together and make magic. Nothing we do could be done individually, and it takes years of cultivation of talents and personalities to pull it off. We're planners, forecasters of potential, and eternal optimists. I love that, eternal optimists. I think that's important. Yeah. We have to believe that our kids are going to do well, even if maybe they don't.
Yeah, that's right.
We build community, teach people to trust each other, and create joy while there are struggles at seemingly every turn. The payoff is so worth it, and there is nothing else like what we do. Wow.
Mhm.
I want to like just I want to chat with this person every day, especially on the days where I feel like, oh, I got to go in today.
Yeah.
I need to contact this. Just need to message this person, and be like,
Right.
give me some good, some good motivation.
Yeah. Right. Oh, absolutely. Yep. We gotta keep this person on our list.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. This why is because I saw my high school band director loving his job every day. It inspired me to pursue a career where I could love what I do every day too.
Wow.
That's really nice.
Yeah. I would love to, in my mind, be that person. And I think that's something to live into, but I don't love my job every day. I enjoy my job most days.
Mm-hmm.
And there are definitely days where I'm like, wow, that was an amazing day. I'm so lucky. But there are some days where I'm just like, wow, this day was really tough.
Yeah.
And I hope I don't really let that on to my students.
I hope so too.
But at the same time, I don't think you have to love your job every day to be an effective teacher. I don't know. What do you think, Jen?
I think if you tried to be that person that has to love their job every day, you'd get burnt out really fast. And because that's not like, there's just too much. There's just too much going on around you to love it all the time,
Yeah.
So I think you got to be real with yourself and say, you know what, we'll try again tomorrow. So some of the sometimes,
or sometimes you just got to fake it.
Yeah. Yep. Fake it till you make it.
Yeah. All right. So another person wrote, the music department was one. Oh, this is my kindred spirit here. The music department was one of the only places I truly felt like I belonged. My music teachers created a safe space within their classroom before safe spaces were even a thing. Plus, I just loved playing music. I went to college as a political science major. Okay. That's a little different. Ready to change the world, but sitting in my boring classes, I just wanted to get to the band room as soon as I could. Having a job where I never have to leave the band room, it doesn't get better than that.
That's fun.
Yeah. You get to be around people. You get to be around your people, right?
Yeah. I like that answer a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. So this contributor says, when I was in high school, I was a member of a youth symphony. We toured around our state and the country as well as internationally. The directors made it a point for every tour to include a visit to a less fortunate school or other such place. I saw firsthand how easily music was able to overcome barriers and to connect people and kids specifically from widely different backgrounds, monetary, societal, cultural, and otherwise. One such tour always sticks out to me was a visit to a school for the deaf and the blind. During our performance, we had a tradition of inviting audience members to come on stage and sit amongst the orchestra as we played one of our pieces. I witnessed a young girl who happened to be both deaf and blind hear music for the first time when her teacher brought her up and placed her hands on the cello in front of me as we played. Watching her face light up as she heard music for seemingly the first time in her life is an image I will never forget. I made it my mission right then and there to bring joy and connection to music to as many students as I could and to afford opportunities like that to as many of my kids as I possibly could. This is also the reason I have a passion for teaching in rural areas, to show these kids that there's more to life than their small towns and to show them what opportunities music can open up in their lives.
Wow.
I'm not crying. You're crying.
I know. Wow. What an amazing
That's an amazing
experience.
story. Yeah. That's a really great story.
Indeed.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. I got nothing to add to that.
I got nothing. I mean, me either. That's pretty special, to get to see that firsthand as you're, deciding what you're going to do with your life. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I guess the only thing that I would have to add is sometimes we don't know what those sparks are. Mm-hmm. With our students. Yeah. It can be something that you're not even aware happened. Mm-hmm. And, that sparked something in somebody that, that changed their whole life. Mm-hmm. Amazing.
Yeah, totally.
Well, the last one that we have here is my whys have changed over the past 23 years, but my most recent whys would be the look on my 6th grade student when she nailed her trumpet part on the jazz band tour after many hours of personal practice. She got why she did it, and I enjoyed guiding her along the way. Yeah.
That's cool.
Those individual moments are so important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So important. They keep going. As a teacher, you
right.
know, when you see that experience and that excitement, that keeps me going. I don't know about you.
It does for me too. I mean, they come around, you know, every once in a while, and you're like, oh, that's the one. That's the moment. Every year, I look forward to the first notes, like my band plays together, and that the very first notes that they get to put together. I mean, that I look forward to that moment every year.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Jen, we're pretty darn lucky.
We get to do cool things. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Any final thoughts here on the Wise episode? The Wise episode.
The Wise episode. I like that. Wise is wise. Not really. I mean, you know, not to be ignored. The stability of education that despite sweeping changes here and there in education and people's perspectives on it and, the climate of this and that, I do feel like education, in this country is going to continue to thrive. And there are enough, enough educated people to hold down the anchor here, and I appreciate being in a field with mostly filled with people that have the hearts of wanting to just have a better society and well-rounded, members of that society. And I think we're in a great field, and I think and I really appreciate the stability, like I said, the stability of that, and the importance of that to how we live our lives. So yeah.
I love it. It's rare to find a profession in music that has the kind of stability and salary, that while at the same time making a difference in people's lives. I mean, we're pretty darn lucky.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep. Awesome.
Okay.
Well, Jen, if our listeners really enjoyed this today, they should definitely go on over and subscribe on their favorite podcast apps.
Definitely.
Leave us a good review, maybe some 5 stars if you really liked it.
That would be really great. You can find us on social media on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Chime in, tell us your why if we didn't hit it on our podcast this month. Please share, because we want to know what makes you tick, and what keeps you in the profession.
Yeah, it's inspiring to us hearing other people's whys, especially if maybe there are things we hadn't thought about. Yep. So let us know. Mm-hmm. Tell other people about us. If you enjoyed our podcast, there's a whole bunch. I think this is episode 20, and so there's a whole bunch of other ones that they can listen to too if they're if they're so inclined.
Yep.
And if they really enjoyed it, they should definitely consider becoming a monthly supporter. The link is in the show notes.
It's in the show notes. So
indeed.
Yep. All right. Well, let's keep making some great music out there, and let's keep fulfilling those whys.
Thanks, Jen.
Thanks, Eric.